everybody. Travis Watts from Ashcroft Capital. I'm Director of Investor Relations. In today's topic, what we're covering are the different classes of property. If you've ever looked at an investment overview in the private placement syndication space, you may have seen terms like Class A, Class B, Class C, and that's what we're talking about here today in this brief episode. So let's start out by talking about Class A properties. And what we're talking about is a property that's either newly built or less than 10 years old. As far as the rent is concerned, it's usually the highest rent in a particular market, and there's very little room for growth on that. So in other words, the property's already achieving its highest and best rent potential, generally speaking. As far as the tenant is concerned, usually it's a very high income, highly qualified, high credit score renter. And as far as the maintenance, there's usually very little to no deferred maintenance on the property. Of course, there's always going to be something small, but generally speaking, the roofs are not leaking, the windows don't need replacement, the HVAC systems do not need to be replaced at this time. So these are your more luxury, high-end, usually located in great markets, very upscale, usually with a wide array of amenities, pools, potentially hot tubs, barbecue areas, co-working spaces, the works. So as we move into Class B properties, these are a little bit older, pre-existing properties. The age of a Class B property is probably 10 to 40 years old. The cap rate's going to be a little bit higher. And by the way, the higher the cap rate is, the lower the purchase price is. So Class B properties trade a little bit lower in price compared to a Class A. The rent is usually kind of in between. There could be some margin for improvement because it is an older property. So if you do what's called a value add play and you renovate and fix it up, you might be able to push the rents a little bit higher than they currently are today. Your tenant base is essentially middle class, middle income families. The maintenance is usually well maintained. However, some deferred maintenance, some improvements may be required on the property upon purchasing it. The layout is usually up to date, but the property might lack a couple modern amenities such as upgraded camera systems, package locker systems, covered car parking, etc. And last, we'll talk about Class C properties, usually older than 30 years. The highest cap rates in a particular market compared to A and B, which means the lowest price points. Typically, the rent is going to be below market. These properties will have a lot of deferred maintenance, many areas for improvement, shall we say. Tenant base is usually blue-collar workforce housing renters. The layout on a Class C property may be outdated and obsolete to the point where even if you wanted to put in a pool or a gym, there just isn't any space or room to do so. So you're kind of stuck with it is what it is. It was built how it was built. Often a Class C neighborhood is going to lack amenities in general. The property is going to have less to offer to residents, and therefore rents will be lower. Therefore, purchase prices are lower. So that is broadly how you might look at or define Class A, B, and C. It is a bit subjective. Some folks will have a different take from how I just analyzed them. I hope you found this episode useful. Feel free to reach out anytime if you have any questions on what we discussed. Thank you for watching.